So we're gonna do the comments from this one. These two are gonna be from the first podcast. So the one is from Gaming Grass. It says COD isn't dying. It has become a lot more popular with Modern Warfare 2019.
Yeah, I mean I think that's true to an extent. I mean, there's something to be said for a game series that can release a game every year and still sell games as much as they do.
It's just it's not exactly what it used to be like when classic Modern Warfare came out. I remember it was the game when it was out. That was like when multiplayer team deathmatch first person shooters were the thing. It was Call of Duty and Halo, and though Call of Duty is still a big franchise, and they let out games every year or every other year. I don't know how often they let them out still, but I think the reason that Modern Warfare 2019 is actually so popular is because it played off of Modern Warfare, and it has like those tones. So it has some nostalgia for players who played those and were like, those were the last games I truly enjoyed, which was kind of where I was.
Right.
Where like those were the last Call of Duties I actually really liked. So playing 2019 was like, wow, it's like classic COD again.
I think too that the games are losing. They're losing like lasting appeal because I mean releasing a new game every year makes it to where like, oh, you're still playing the one from last year.
Yeah,
like, are you serious? Like, dude, get on current trends. You got to play the new one. That's what everybody's playing. It's kind of like it's similar to like a sports game. It's like it makes the older ones obsolete, sort of, and maybe not. Obviously, the stories are different and things like that, but if there's no player base on an older Call of Duty because everybody's playing the new one, then it might as well be dead,
And another reason this Call of Duty was so popular is because Warzone. Battle Royales are such a huge trend right now, and them making a Battle Royale really boosted their audience like crazy, especially because they actually made a pretty good Battle Royale. I'm not a huge fan, but of the Battle Royales, it is actually a pretty good one. So that definitely added a lot of success, but also put them in that awkward position because now they let out Cold War, and now they had to separate Modern Warfare in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and then the second one is little did they know the massive news bomb that randomly showed itself the following day. This is about Destiny, that could make Destiny Beyond Light possibly the best expansion ever.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of news did come out after
the first podcast.
Right after the first podcast. I remember we put it up, and then I was like, the next day, I just see a bunch of news on it, and I'm like, wow.
It was unusual too because normally Bungie doesn't normally release like a bunch of news like that. Just it wasn't on a Thursday, which is normally when they're like this week at Bungie news release things are. I don't think it was on a Thursday, so it was just like this random dump of like this really cool information. I mean, like there was stuff about there being cross-play in 2021. They're just talking about adding like transmog and stuff with cosmetics, and
that's also when they added the Hawkmoon mission.
Yeah, so we had been asking for like we've been saying they were drip feeding us slowly, like
especially with the stuff with Crow,
right?
Where we thought Crow needed to be the reason we get Hawkmoon or that development, and it ended up being like that.
Yeah,
and I don't know if you've played the mission, but I have, and it makes you appreciate Hawkmoon. It's really cool.
Which it was I've seen some people really love it and some people really not because
it's really weird, and I think the reason some people don't like it is because it looks like it's going to have like rolls,
random rolls, which isn't normally the case for an exotic.
And a lot of people don't like that because like the reason you use exotics is because of the set rolls it has, so you use different exotics depending on that. Yeah, so it could be like crazy OP.
I'll be honest, I don't understand why people are upset about the randomness of it. I don't know why people are upset about the randomness because
it's kind of cool.
Hawkmoon was a D1 gun, and part of it was that there was a randomness element. That like the actual perk on the gun was that I think certain rounds can do a variable amount of damage or something like that. I don't really remember, but the random element is a thing that Hawkmoon has always had. So I don't really know why people are complaining about that, but.
And I didn't look into it enough. I don't know if it's like you can control the random roll, or if it's like as it goes on. Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. It can make it a really good weapon. Yeah. But it could also seem like it could bite you in the ass. Yeah, maybe it could if you can't control it.
Yeah, and it seems to me more like a PvE gun. It's only got 8 rounds in the magazine, and if you,
I will say the perk on it is very hard for.
Yeah, because you got to get crits.
Yep.
The more crits you get in your magazine will cause your last round to be more damage.
Yeah.
You know, like the more
Which is
crits
good
you
for,
get,
like bossing or
right? Like the
killing
more
your-
crits you get for like your first 7 shots, the more damage your 8th shot will do. Basically,
Which is cool because in PvP you may be able to one shot somebody, but how many times?
Yeah, how many times
do you actually get to use that?
Yeah.
Probably not very much.
Right. And with PvP, I mean, I know I like to reload my gun when I have an opportunity. So I'm not going to dump 5 rounds and kill somebody and then not reload.
Well, and I like using using those warlock. What are those warlock boots? They reload your gun when you run.
Is that, a Lunafaction, that has nothing to do with the wrist.
No, I don't remember what they're called, but there's legs that when you run, it reloads your gun. I like using that for PvP because you don't have to reload. You don't have to sit there.
I really need to know more about Warlock exotics. Side note, I know like about the Hunter exotics, but yeah.
All right. Well, that was the comments.
So make sure, guys, to leave comments this time. It could be questions about a future podcast. It could be questions about the the podcast that this podcast right here. Just let us know if you have any questions, and we pick a couple comments every podcast to dive into. So, yep. So what do we want to talk about today?
Well, console wars was the topic we picked.
Yeah,
at least
console wars.
Yeah. So what we mean by that is, there's always been a competition in consoles. So Xbox, all of Nintendo's stuff, and PlayStation. And we were just going to talk kind of about the history and like where it has come now.
Yeah.
So I do have some of the sales numbers for these consoles, which I found kind of interesting.
Okay.
So
this last gen?
Yeah. We'll go with last gen. We'll go Xbox One and PS3. We'll talk about the ones before that too. But with the Xbox One, it sold 48.5 million.
Okay.
Right. And the PS4. Sorry, I said PS3. PS4. Sold double. It was 113.5 million.
Yeah.
So I think
does it talk about Wii U or Switch on there?
It does talk about Switch.
Because Switch that's a weird thing because
it's
the real
68.3.
competitor to those two should have been the Wii U, but it flopped so much that basically in the middle of a console generation.
Not even on here.
Yeah, it's like nothing. Nobody bought a Wii U.
Yeah, I was about to say the Wii U number might be like 2.
Yeah, I don't know. Like 40 people bought a Wii U. But like it was the sales were so poor for it that Nintendo
Well, I feel like it had the problem that Xbox is having right now, whereas people thought it was just a Wii, very basically.
Yeah, but the name was stupid.
It was very confusing on how it was a separate thing, but not a separate thing because it does connect to your Wii.
I remember somebody asking me once. I was explaining to them. Can't remember what game it was. Super Mario Maker, maybe, on Wii U. And I was explaining the game to them, and they were like, what console is that on? And I said, it's on Wii U. And they asked me what a Wii U was, which was upsetting already. And then when I explained it, they were like, so is it just like an addition to the Wii? And like, I'm just no, not even close. I mean, it uses the Wiimotes, but really the primary
that's actually
input,
what confused people is the fact that they incorporated the fact that you can use the Wii remotes which
was smart because there were so many people that bought a Wii,
so that everybody already had Wii controllers, right? And if you want to play party games, which I think Nintendo usually does pretty well,
right?
Not having to buy controllers is good.
But instead of maybe they would have been more successful if it was more of like a Wii Plus. But I don't know. Of course, those that don't know, I would hope you would, but maybe you don't. That the Wii U had like a tablet controller. Looks kind of like the current Switch, except that was the controller.
It was a lot bigger. It was like a
chunky thing.
They definitely scaled it down.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was kind of weird, but I think
it's crazy though because the Nintendo Switch. This might sound very like an unpopular opinion, but it's very similar to the Wii U in the way that it's kind of mind-boggling that like it was so much more successful than the Wii U because the concept was kind of the same. It did lean a little more towards mobile, which was a good idea because their DSs were like the top thing and still are pretty popular. So they knew that they wanted to have the best of both worlds. That's why they let you, dock it.
I think that was smart.
Yeah.
Because the games, aren't the best looking games because they have to be games that can run handheld. But the thing is, I think the Switch is successful and the Wii U wasn't successful because the Switch is what people thought the Wii U was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
People see this huge tablet controller, and your natural assumption is just, I can go take a poop and still play my games, and it doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
It still has to be connected to the console that's plugged into your TV.
Yeah, and
it does not work.
And a lot of times it's the way that the Wii U, worked with your TV was like an extension or another monitor.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the monitor, like you could use it as the display.
Right.
It was like there was a display. So there was a game called Zombie U.
Mm-hmm.
It was super popular when among the 40 people that bought it.
Right.
But I watched videos on it, and I thought it was really cool that like on the TV you have what's going on, and on your thing it's like inventory if you open up boxes and stuff like that. I thought that was cool, but the more you think about it, the more it's like, yeah, that doesn't really work.
It's a little gimmicky.
Yeah, it is. It's just a little. It's cool. It's like a cool little wow factor for a little bit, but then it gets annoying, and then you find out it's like, oh, I have this big chunky thing, and I can't even just play on it. And
Yeah, I think there may have been a couple like really, really simple games that you could play on just the tablet thing, but it would still display on your TV the same exact thing. It was mirroring basically your TV, so you couldn't walk away from your console. You can go in another room, really,
Right.
Like you could be in the same room and just turn your TV off and be using your tablet with your headphones in it or something like that. But so I think the reason the Switch is so popular and why it's doing a fantastic job. If it had come out, well, I don't necessarily know this for a fact, but I mean, it's extremely successful, the Switch is. And if it had come out when the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One had come out, like in place of the Wii U, I feel like it might be the console winner right now, because it's what the people thought the Wii U should be. It's a really great idea. I don't know why nobody ever thought about it before, to be able to take this handheld console, play, current gen level stuff, and then slap it on a dock and play it on your TV seamlessly. It's genius. So, I mean,
you know what I've noticed? I'm looking at this list. Oh, it doesn't actually have the new gen consoles. I was about to say, if it has PS5 and not Xbox One Series X or whatever, which we'll talk about that too.
Goodness,
that's an irritation.
Do we even know what the sales numbers are for that? I mean, they've
probably
sold like 50.
Probably Wii U levels.
Probably passed already.
But like
maybe
it was bad. So yeah, I think by that time, by the time by the time Xbox One and PS4 were competing, Xbox was losing the battle.
Well, if you remember when Xbox was first announced, Microsoft said your console always has to be connected to the internet. Mm-hmm. And there was stuff coming out about how you couldn't buy used games or something.
Yeah, I remember that, and I was like, you've got to be kidding.
They got so much backlash that they stepped back, thankfully. I mean, that would have been dead on arrival.
Well, they would have lost a lot faster than they are now.
The point of the one in the name was it was your one hub for all your media. It even had you could plug your cable box into the back of the console. Yeah. So it was everything, and they're trying to integrate everything.
The way I interpreted it was it was a revamp, because let's be honest, an Xbox 360 is kind of weird. To go from a classic just Xbox to Xbox 360. Where in the world are you supposed to go after that?
720. We just keep going with snowboard.
Yeah. To talk about, I mean, tricks. Xbox in general, Microsoft, in naming their consoles, they're super shitty at it.
Yeah.
They don't understand. They make it their own jobs super hard by the way that they name their consoles, because they where were they supposed to go after Xbox 360? Xbox One, and then they went with all these updated versions of Xbox One, and now they have an Xbox One Series X.
No.
And people don't even know.
Xbox Series X.
Oh.
It's stupid.
See? It's really confusing. Because I don't even know what I'm talking about.
No, I don't.
And I keep up with this stuff.
Yeah,
so
I'm
still struggling, but
it's stupid.
It's really dumb. If I can't be able, PlayStation, I've not been a huge PlayStation person my whole life, but more recently, I played it with a PS3, and it had great exclusives then. And then PS4, they just blew it out of the water with how many great games came out for it.
Yeah.
And then PS5 with what they've announced, and I'm sure will come out eventually, it's going to be it is bad news for the Xbox. But like the simplicity of PlayStation 2, 3, 4, 5, it's like I know what console I'm buying. There's no area for confusion.
Yeah.
Whereas like Xbox is just.
But these new consoles, I think we've mentioned it before in other podcasts, that sales for the Xbox One S and One X went up substantially when pre-orders for the Series S and Series X came out. People literally thought they were buying the new console because the name is so similar. There's Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox One X. Then there's Xbox Series S and Xbox Series X. Why do any of those sound like a different generation?
Yeah, did PlayStation come out with like an updated version of the 4? Isn't it like a
PS4
Pro?
There's a PS4 Pro. Yeah, I mean there's
but still, there's no area for confusion.
No, it's Pro, not Pro.
Yeah, like there's no area. It's still PS4. There's like
right.
And some people may say, but it doesn't say Xbox One. They still went with like the Series S and Series X. Like that. Why are they still on the?
And why would anybody think adding the word series indicates like a new generation? Like that doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
That literally what that sounds is it sounds like another version of the same console. It sounds like this is just the S version of like the slim version, which there already is one. This is the X version, whatever that means.
Wait, there's a slim of the Series. Oh, is that what the Series S is?
There's a slim. Yeah, the Series S is like a.
What in the world does it even look like? Because the thing is like.
It's like this big, and I don't even know actually everything about it. I know that it's. I
haven't been really looking into Xbox too much. I've just been keeping up with.
It's like $300.
It's $300.
Yeah, so it would play Xbox Series exclusive games, but they're like way down. It's like basically current gen levels of visuals, if I'm understanding correctly.
Which I'm just going to throw this in. Consoles. People need to stop focusing on 4K 60 frames per second, please. Just who cares about 4K? Okay, 4K at 60 frames per second is cool. Great. Make it able to do HD in like 120 frames. Or because there's no way your machine can run 4K at 60 frames and can't do HD at 120.
Yeah.
Or or at least close.
The smooth
frame rates are I think that it would
the only time that I would think you would want to prioritize resolution over frame rate would be if your display
if you're playing
doesn't well if your display is like a 60 hertz display, obviously the 120 is not going to help you go for the 4K.
But having that option, I feel helps. Because I feel like that's a lot of reason people will switch to PC. I mean, if you look at the times like Fortnite when it got big, people started on consoles and then moved to PCs with controllers because of the higher frame rates. Yeah. I feel like consoles, if they want to stay in like a competitive scene with any of that stuff, they gotta boost up the frame rate. That's kind of off topic.
Which I think current gen consoles are attempting that.
But I just still see the 4K 60 FPS as the bragging point. And it's cool if you have a 4K big TV and you have a really cool aesthetically pleasing game, which we're going to get into graphics in games after this. But like, that's cool. And that I'm glad that you can have that, but there needs to be an option to be able to do an HD. If I want to do it on a monitor that has a higher refresh rate and be able to, use that monitor and not have to turn the hertz down.
Right. Yeah. Fun fact, more Destiny information, people, because we play too much. But the next gen upgrades for console on Destiny 2, like the update came out as well, and it bumps up to 60 hertz or 60 FPS for the whole game, but it actually bumps up Crucible to 120. So Crucible specifically, it's 120. I guess.
Why?
I guess because they don't have the huge open world that they need to render and stuff. So it's a smaller map and less.
I just feel like that. Okay, I just feel like, well, at least my brain in the way, because I'm used to like 120 hertz now, is like it would just feel weird going from Crucible to
maybe
playing like if I wanted to do the raid. Yeah. I still like playing it at 120 hertz because of the refresh rate. There's no there's no frame lag because you will. You may not notice it if you consistently play on a 60 hertz monitor or at 60 frames, but like when you switch to 120 frames, I mean, even if you go to like 80 hertz monitors, going down to 60, you notice a huge difference. You're like, wow, there's a pretty big difference here on what.
I've never played on higher than 70.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, dude, once you play on it, it's just so smooth.
Yeah, my monitor.
I will say I've never played on a 244 hertz because what games am I going to play that I could run 244 frames? Like, there's
Pong.
no like
you run Pong at 200.
Yeah, I mean, I have a decent machine too. Like
Yeah.
I have an RTX 2080 Super, and I can't imagine. Like, there's no way Destiny, because open world just
it's
just
Destiny's
it
hard
wrecks
on
it.
Destiny's hard on PCs. It seems
And I think
like.
it's because they load the whole world, whereas
Yeah.
like I feel like some open world games do kind of what like Minecraft does, and it
Yeah.
only loads a certain distance away from you. Whereas Destiny just goes, we'll just load the whole freaking
load
map.
it all.
It's like,
And then
okay.
occasionally we'll pop you into like a load screen.
Yeah, and then you have a bunch of other people in there. So like they're all doing something. Some guy's doing something like a mile away from you. Yeah, your game's loading that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
but I think that would boost playing console, or at least wanting to buy a console. I mean, there's obviously still appeal to consoles, like the PS5 I want to buy for the exclusives, because I know the exclusives are going to be really fun. But my preference is still PC.
yeah.
So if they want to like win me over, there's got to be some improvements.
I think that's part of the problem. And I also want to talk about why specifically you think, and I'll get into my ideas as well, of why you think PlayStation won against Xbox in sales. I do want to talk about that. So
okay.
put a pin in that. But first, I want to say I think that's part of the problem with Xbox, is that Xbox has to compete with PC. There is a Xbox Game Pass where you've got like your subscription service of games that you can download or whatever. Your library of games, you pay X number of dollars and you get access to them. But there's also a Game Pass for PC.
They're almost fighting themselves.
Yeah, they are.
They're
And
almost
it's
killing
like,
themselves.
It makes me not want to get an Xbox, the new Xbox, because I know that Halo's going to be on PC when it comes out.
Oh yeah, if Halo comes out on PC, I will not buy an Xbox. There's no reason to buy an Xbox unless all your friends play on Xbox, which you should just convince them to buy a PlayStation 5 at that point, and then buy a PlayStation 5, because you get to play all the same games.
Yeah.
I mean,
and more better ones. But that's really,
and Halo would be the only thing. But if you have a PC, just play
only thing now I'm a little curious about is how Microsoft is going to handle the fact that they bought Bethesda. Elder Scrolls and Fallout are two game series that I really like.
Hopefully they don't kill it.
Amidst all their flaws, I love those two game series, and I hope that they don't.
I feel like the flaws are almost part of it now. Well, not now. I mean, I have always been a part of the games.
But they used to kind of be like funny, haha, all that's cute. Bethesda has buggy games, and now it's kind of like. But it was like you made excuses for them, and you were like, oh, but it's just really big games. How could they possibly polish a game that big? And then you get games like The Witcher 3 that's like 10 times more polished, and you're like, oh, maybe they could do that. Maybe Bethesda just sucks.
Even if they don't release the game polished, polish it as you go, at least. Because players find bugs. When you're making a game, I'm sure there are people, like, you don't find every bug that you have. I mean, I don't know how Bethesda missed a lot of the bugs in that, or they just laugh at it and release it anyways.
Dude,
but in my head, if they want to polish the game, they let it out right.
Yeah.
Let it kind of progress. People find stuff. They're like, all right, let's fix it slowly. They could have really polished games if they wanted to.
They could, but dude, this is not on our list of topics at all, but I just want to talk about this right now because
that's fine.
There are bugs. Okay. So Bethesda games have a huge modding community. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And there's been periods where Bethesda would pay the community modders for their mods to implement them into game mechanics,
like shaders and stuff to fix stuff.
I don't actually know.
I think I saw the shaders thing with Skyrim. Somebody made a shaders mod that improved the shaders for the whole game, and they paid them, and then they just put it into the game.
But then you look at Fallout 76. There were bugs from Fallout 4 that were patched later in Fallout 4's life. And then Fallout 76 comes with the same engine, which is fine. Which, by the way, Bethesda's Fallout engine is ancient. I keep going off on.
Hey, no, it's all right.
No, but like, so anyway,
You feel the passion.
Fallout 4
the
comes out.
passion.
There's bugs that are patched. Fallout 76 comes out with the same bugs that had already been patched in Fallout 4. They just literally copied and pasted the same code from Fallout 4 to Fallout 76 without patches that had even already been implemented. Like, bugs came back. That's ludicrous.
It's crazy too, because this will play into like our next topic, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But I'll just tell it what it is. It's bigger games, or like, bigger companies don't necessarily make a better game, and Bethesda is definitely part of that.
Yeah, and not that the games are bad.
No, it's just that like the lack of polish and the laziness from the company that makes so much money from their loyal fans, and they're highly regarded games.
Yes.
Fallout 4, Fallout 3 is held really high.
New Vegas.
Skyrim's already obviously held really high.
Yeah, New Vegas.
New Vegas was held really high.
Fallout 4 was like not quite up to the same level, but still good.
I would pick the two, it'd be Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Those were
and
like the
Skyrim.
big. And Skyrim,
Mm-hmm.
obviously.
Yeah, but
we'll
get to that in a little bit, I guess. But like,
so you want to talk about why I think Xbox lost?
Yeah.
In Xbox One era.
Yeah.
Because I will say this: Xbox 360, PS3.
Yeah.
There was really good competition.
Yeah, they were close.
They had good exclusives.
Yeah.
Halo was in its prime.
Yes.
I feel like Gears of War was actually kind of good.
It was good.
Where
because you had Gears
both
1, 2,
of those,
3, right? It was up. 3
yes,
was on.
3 was on 360.
Yeah.
And I feel like both of those franchises that at least I am aware of, that I know and I played, died, or at least
that was the beginning of the end.
The slope just went like this from then on.
Yeah.
Where like Halo 2 and 3 was just like up here.
Yeah.
They were shooting for the stars, and then
Halo. And Reach was great, which you said you said you didn't play much Reach.
I didn't play much Reach.
Yeah,
I've
it was
heard
well
really
liked.
good
It was
things.
extremely well liked.
I know. I've heard it's the best Halo game.
That particular generation, I think we won the whole thing, which is, of course, everybody and their grandpa had a Wii.
But like, yeah, it's crazy because Nintendo won with the party game thing,
and the
because it was they're games that everyone can play.
Yeah, and they're unique.
And there are some games in there that you can get obsessive over. So there's really high, like hardcore gamers. Which
have
is
you ever seen? There's I'm not going to say a vibrant speedrunning community, but a decently well-supported speedrun community for Wii Golf.
What?
People speedrun Wii Golf.
I'm not surprised. The speedrunning community picks. There's a lot of games in there that I was like, really? People still play that?
Yeah. I don't know, man.
I'm not surprised about like Mario, but that definitely surprises me.
I think some speedrunners are just like, hey, I'm not that good. I gotta get a world record in something. Let me pick like.
Does it even have Wii on here? It doesn't.
Let me have. Oh, it sold like crazy.
I'm sure it did.
Now, as far as they were in a class of their own.
Wait, let's. Can I tell you something funny?
Yes.
The Super Nintendo sold more than the Xbox One.
Man, console
for some
gaming
people
was
who
not...
don't know how old that is, Super Nintendo is pretty old, and that was when gaming in general was not very.
Yeah, it wasn't nearly as well supported.
Not even close.
Not even close.
So for it to be outselling it even now, I know new people buy it now, but like new people buy Xbox Ones now too.
Yeah,
but the fact that it beat it is crazy.
What about Wii?
There is Wii. Wii has 101.6 million. It doesn't actually beat PS2.
Oh, PS2 is like
probably
one of the top.
PS2 is number one with 157.7 million.
Yeah,
which
people bought that because it's a freaking DVD player too.
Yeah,
that was a big thing too. Yeah,
I never played PS2. I played PS2 at like my friend's house, but I never played PS2.
Everybody else did. I didn't either.
I had a classic Xbox.
Yeah,
and then I had a GameCube. Those were like my two main consoles.
Yeah.
When I was But
yeah, I didn't do much with PlayStation 2. We got one later in its life, like towards the end when it was like super like dirt cheap. But I didn't ever get much into it. But everybody else had one, and
playing PS2 games now is kind of there can be quality there, but sometimes getting past the graphics is a little rough around the edges, literally.
But like the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 era, and Wii, Xbox 360, I'm pretty sure was winning almost the entire generation.
Oh, and another thing, the Xbox was, I believe, for pro scene, I don't know if you know this, but professional scene, Call of Duty was the console to use.
Really?
PlayStation wasn't in there at all.
Okay.
From what I know. And obviously professional Halo. Those two very competitive games that were very popular at the time. This was when we talked about Call of Duty with the comments on how this was the era in which it was hitting super popularity. Yeah. So it's not surprising that the Xbox 360 beat the PS3 overall. Now that does not mean the PS3
I don't know if it
didn't
actually
have
did overall, because I thought that at the very tail end of the life.
Oh, it did. It just barely nicked it.
I think
it's 87.4 to 85.
I think Xbox 360 came out in like 05 or something, and then Xbox One, PlayStation 4 came out in like 12, 13, something like that. So in the 7-8 years, I think like 360 was ahead like 7 of them, and then like the last year, I don't know. Well, and we probably have to look at like,
and you have to give kudos to them.
I think The Last of Us came out at the very tail end of PlayStation 3's lifespan. I could be completely wrong. I'm sure someone will blow me up in the comments if I'm wrong. I know it was on PlayStation 3, but I thought that it was like one of the very last games to come out.
When did the PS4 come out? I'll look up last.
I thought it was like 2012 or 2013.
Last of Us release. 2013, June 14th, 2013.
Yeah. So look up when the PlayStation 4 came out. You said 2013?
Mm-hmm. It was a couple years after that. I think it was 25th. No, PS4 came out on November 15th of 2013.
So
it was literally the end.
It must have been like the last AAA game to come out for PlayStation 3.
Which Last of Us was a huge game.
Huge. I think that helped a lot of the sales. It had to.
Yeah, well, PS3, what I was going to say is like you have to give them kudos to even compete with a super... I feel like pro gaming was starting to hit a really good run on things when it came to Call of Duty and Halo at the time. Yep. And I give them kudos. Even Gears did have a good community.
Gears 2.
But I give them props because they competed still and ended up winning at the end with exclusives. Yes. They just had good games.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that game called? Oh, I hate that I can't remember it. It's the one where you have powers. It's like electrical powers, and you get to choose. Infamous.
Yeah.
Oh, Infamous and Infamous 2 were so good.
Really good.
They were such good games.
And you had like Uncharted and
Uncharted.
In my opinion, I think that
was Uncharted. Which Uncharted was out at that time?
1, 2, and 3 were all on PlayStation 3.
Wow.
Yeah. Thieves.
Dang.
4 came out for.
How long? What was the time span?
I'm not sure.
So that's kind of crazy. Within one generation of a console, they let out 3.
And it was 3 good
really
games.
Good games.
Yeah,
I have not played
generation. I'm fairly positive. You haven't at all any of them. Oh, dude, you gotta play them.
They do look really good.
Yeah.
And I've like dabbled in the story. I'm one of those people who like
good. The story's
looking
good.
into the stories.
Voice acting's good. Yeah. I think the difference between Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I think Xbox was the place to go for shooters, and PlayStation 3 was the place to go for the more story-driven, character-based. There was a lot more...
Or platformers.
There was a lot more like JRPGs on
Another audience was fighting games. I don't know if you know that, but fighting games, the preferred console was PlayStation. It has to do with the
D-pad, in my opinion.
It has to do with the controller
the
layout.
Better.
It has to do with it being smaller.
Yeah.
More compact. It's easier to like get over to other buttons.
So, I think that's a major reason. I think maybe the culture at the time with Xbox and PlayStation was more balanced to where.
Do you think they were as like? I don't want to say like hostile towards each other. I'm not saying they are now, but I feel like there's more.
You talking about between Xbox
bad
and PlayStation?
Blood? Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't. At least then. I mean, obviously, I was younger and I didn't pay attention to gaming news as much. But like, it seemed then that there was less of a like, oh, you play Xbox, you noob. It's
right.
like,
and you hear that now.
You play on Xbox?
You totally hear
oh,
that now.
cool. I play on PlayStation. It's like, oh, cool. What do you play? Like, it's not like that anymore. It's like a toxic.
Yeah.
You play on
like
Xbox One.
Xbox has
you
no
pleb,
exclusives, dude.
You pleb. Which, like, honestly, if you do play on Xbox, I don't understand, but I'm not going to make fun of you for it.
I'm not going to make fun of you, but I literally have no idea why. Unless you're just
at this point, because I did want to say that the shooter thing changed. PS4, you know, how you said Xbox 360 was the shooters.
Yeah.
PS4 turned that on its head. And it was everybody who wanted to play competitive shooters went to PS4,
and
they
still
pros.
kept their stories stuff too.
Like and they kept all the good stuff.
They took everything.
Yeah,
they really did.
Xbox. Xbox, you like shooters? Oh no. Yeah. They I think they improved their controller so that it worked still for fighting games. Because I actually really like the PS4 controller a lot.
Me too.
I think it is better than the Xbox One controller.
It's the same. Really, PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 controllers are almost identical to the PlayStation 1 controllers. Aside from analog controllers, analog triggers on PlayStation 3. That was like the only difference. PlayStation 4 made the thumbsticks concave instead of convex, which helps a lot with shooters, of course. The little touch bar and the triggers were better. But overall, it's the same controller.
But that's another thing. We talked about this. We talked about that before, where like the gradual changes are much better than Xbox is like, we're here, then we're like at this giant brick, and now we're back. Yeah. It's like
the Xbox One controller was pretty similar to the Xbox 360.
The Series X is the same though, basically, right?
I think it is almost. I think the D-pad's a little different.
I'll be interested with the PS5 to feel that
it's very different.
It is very different, but also with the haptic feedback.
Yeah,
I'm very interested to feel that. I'm like 99.9% sure that most pros who play shooters will turn that off.
Yeah,
because that'll affect shooting a little bit.
It'd be
because that's more for like like when you want to really get into a game.
Yeah, like immersion.
Yeah. Like you just want to feel like the weight of a trigger. Or like if you're pulling a bow. I've actually seen that where I don't remember what game it was, but it was like the character was pulling back the bow and you feel the tension. Yeah. And then like when you let go, like when they let go of it, you feel it like release. It's really cool.
There's a game that comes with the PlayStation 5 and I don't really see many people talk about it. But the console comes with a game packed in. And it's I can't remember what it's called, but it's based on this little robot dude. There was a game on PlayStation 4 on PSVR called Astrobot Rescue Mission or something. It was a VR game, but this one's not VR, it's just a traditional platformer, but they've kind of taken that character and moved him to PlayStation 5 or whatever. And the part of the haptic feedback on the triggers and the controller itself, the character is like walking around on like different surfaces. Like there's like a glass surface and then like a sandy surface.
Oh, that's cool.
And like the vibration is different. The glass feels like hollow. And then the sand is like I don't know how to explain it, but you know what I'm saying? Like the vibration is different depending on the material that you're walking on.
There was put a lot of work into that controller. I've heard
work. I've literally seen reviews that say it's the best gaming controller that has ever existed. And
if you're really looking for an immersive experience, I'm sure that adds so much.
People are saying, I thought it would be gimmicky. I thought it'd be stupid. What's the point of this? Why is this really that much better? And then they're like, but then I put it in my hands. And the controller is bigger and weightier, which might be a point of contention for some. I know I really like the fact that PlayStation 4 controller is kind of smaller than Xbox. So I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about a bigger controller. But
I do have an interesting question. I'll ask it after this. So we're going to have to switch topics here for a second. Yeah. We're going to go to our other topic. But to like just kind of wrap up what we're talking about with the console wars is, it used to be more of a competition. The reason that we think Xbox is losing now, at least I think we agree on this, is one, the marketing of the name. You're confusing the hell out of people. Yeah. Your audience doesn't know. And when like a kid asks their mom, hey, I want an Xbox Series X, their mom goes, oh, this Xbox One X is cheaper. I should buy it. Yeah. And then he gets the wrong console. And then it's like, oh, gosh. And another thing, they're losing on exclusives. They're losing in the fact that they lost their genre. They lost shooters.
Yeah.
And PlayStation has like kept consistent in what they were good at, and then just added to it.
Yeah.
Basically stole it from Microsoft. I'm not going to say they like literally stole it. They were just like, we'll just make it better.
Yeah.
And then they did.
And I don't really know how they stole the shooter.
I don't know what started the transition.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I just remember seeing, I watched some COD pros who were like old COD pros, like Xbox 360. And then they, as soon as like PS4 came around, when they started playing Call of Duty, like the new Modern Warfare, I would say 90% of them played on the PlayStation. I was like, it's kind of weird. And I wonder if that was the fact that they get to play their game they're really good at, but also get to play all these other games that, PlayStation does well. And Nintendo's a whole different monster, I feel like. But Nintendo's...
They don't even count.
No.
There's no
war with
fighting with Nintendo. Because Nintendo has like their Mario games. They have their family games, their kids games, like they're their own thing.
And they don't even...
When I think console war, I think Xbox, PlayStation. That's the fight.
For sure. Especially because it's funny. Do you remember when the PSP came out?
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about this a little bit.
Sure.
I think PSP... I've seen people say that the PSP would do much better if it was let out now. And maybe, but it wouldn't compete with Nintendo in the handheld game at all.
I think it would just help to further destroy Xbox.
That would be the purpose.
That's what it would
I don't
be.
think that if PlayStation let out a PSP, I would not think for once that they're like, oh, they're going after Nintendo.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going after Nintendo.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Steal Mario from them?
Like they have
Nintendo
the
is
nostalgia
like
levels. Like are just amplified by 1,000 when it comes to Nintendo. That anything that PlayStation or Xbox has, it's just that much more. So
first party representation of Nintendo is unmatched. You know, like
their marketing sucks and their company makes questionable decisions sometimes.
For sure, but they have Nintendo.
But
they have Mario. They have Zelda.
Yeah.
You know, they've got
they have these great characters
that
and
everybody knows.
And you know what? They make consistently pretty good games with them. So it's like, okay, we'll forgive you do
your thing, Nintendo.
Dumb assery sometimes.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So now my question was, which goes into our next topic, is haptic feedback on a controller having to do with immersion. Do you think that will have a place in VR? I actually didn't think about it until right now about like how that is supposed to add to the immersive experience of being in a game, and what's more immersive than like literally being in the game with VR.
I think there is some experimentation with that. I mean, I've never used like the HTC Vive, the newer ones, or the Oculus newer ones.
I've seen stuff, but I haven't seen anything about like
haptics
bringing feedback like to that level. But I think if they want to take it to the next level, that's where it is. I don't think the full bodysuit thing is the way to go, but like
I could see it, man. I know we're gonna disagree.
No,
this
is definitely we're talking about VR and its place in gaming. Is the topic, and we do kind of disagree on some things. In the fact that I just don't see VR being so, at least right now with the way that it functions. I will say the what is it? HTC.
Like the Vive.
I'm an idiot. HTC Quest. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a mobile version.
Oculus.
Oculus Quest. You're right.
Yeah.
Oculus Quest looks really good. They're starting to figure out that like there needs to be a good price point and there needs to be maneuverability,
accessibility,
and like having these wires running down you and like being all connected. You're like,
and having to set up cameras in your living room,
but like just being able to throw this thing on and just go. It's really cool. It makes their job hard, but like that's not the point. We want it to be more convenient for us.
Yeah.
So I definitely think. So my view on VR. We'll start with mine. I think VR definitely is going to be big.
Yeah.
It already is. I think it'll be bigger because it'll be more accessible. Like, because let's be honest, like Vive is like $1,000 or $1,200. It's like a whole other PC. You're like, damn, I don't want to pay that. I don't want to pay that much money for not a console even.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just like an attachment. It's like buying a $1,000 mouse. It's just like, but I think VR will have like its own category in gaming in the fact like you are a PC player, console player. Obviously, Nintendo's over here on its own little thing.
Whatever they are.
Whatever you want to call them. They're killing it though.
Yeah.
I think VR is going to be its own thing. It's going to be its own category. and I don't have a problem with it. And I think it'll be very successful. I don't know about like the development of like competitiveness in those kind of games or anything like that. If there is,
a good point.
It'll be the most like physical competitive video game of all time because like, can you imagine the extremes people go to for video games now?
Yeah.
Imagine that in VR, like the extreme.
Breaking controllers.
They will start like actually
destroying.
Working out and becoming athletes of gamers.
There are VR games that are like a workout. Sprint Vector, everybody play Sprint Vector out there. It's a
but the
workout.
whole suit thing, really? You think?
Dude, I don't know.
The only reason that makes sense to me, I've seen videos where people research with it,
Yeah.
is like when you get shot, there's like feedback that you're getting hit, which is kind of cool.
I just see
the problem is my problem with it is accessibility, and like we already talked about how inconvenient it is to like have wires and cameras and all this setup. You're just adding to that.
I think those issues will settle over time. They already are beginning to settle.
That's true.
I mean, like I know that I went over to a friend of mine's house and we played on the like first generation Oculus. Like this was like, you know, at least in my experience, when VR had just started, that having the ability to have VR in your house, and he, you know, how expensive it was, and he had cameras here and here and all this stuff. There's wires hanging out, and there was this big setup, and it was the UI was finicky, and it was having issues with his PC and compatibility and all this stuff. It was annoying, but like it was so much
figuring
fun.
it out at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh,
my
no,
gosh.
No.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about like the issues you have to, you know,
I'm glad I wasn't a part of that part. But you're already seeing it simplify. You know, when you've got PlayStation VR.
No, yeah, you're
PlayStation VR
right.
doesn't. It has there's a camera, one camera. But Oculus Quest there's no camera, so we're already seeing. The reason that I do think it's the future. I do believe that it will be supplemental to consoles for a while and PC for a while. Like I agree with you that there's going to be consoles, there's going to be PC, there's going to be VR, and there's going to be some blur. You might be able to play VR on console, you might be able to play VR on PC, whatever. It'll be a supplement to the other categories, you know, PC and
Are
console.
you about to say that eventually it will
overtake
everything?
I think it will.
Wow.
I do.
Not in our lifetime.
The reason well, maybe not. I'll agree with you there.
It's got to have some big steps.
But you can't disagree with the fact that the push in gaming, I don't really know how I can word this, but there's more and more push for immersion in your game, getting sucked into the characters. There's more of a focus on quality writing, quality voice acting, quality sound effects, quality visuals, of course, you know. We're pushing more and more for realism. And I think it's just a natural conclusion that you want to be eventually to be as immersed as possible as you can in your game. And if that means that you slap on a bodysuit or you set up some like hologram
There's
machines.
There's just so many issues. The movement in VR sucks. Moving around in a world is me teleporting.
I'll agree.
Teleporting around, gotta go. I don't know if it's a treadmill that goes all the way around or what it needs to be, but it needs to be something. I do think there could be some really cool things with like projections on like what your actual house looks like it puts stuff on top of it, so you actually see things that are within your house. They're just kind of changed for the game,
like
which is
like an AR
thing. Which is real. I think that would be really cool. I think in fact there was a presentation done where they did a Minecraft thing where there was a table and there was a Minecraft building like just on the table. And that was what it was. It was just showing off that like it kind of just it can add with VR. Like you can add things to the environment and stuff like that, which I think is really cool. I will say, in my opinion, I haven't done a whole lot of research into like Oculus or HTC Vive or anything in exactly how they operate. But I do really like the way that the PS4 one works, which is simple. It's two lights.
Yeah.
And if you had, I think it could still be cheap and have multiple cameras that just give you a better range of motion with the lights.
Yeah.
It just tracks the lights and keeps you within the space with your lights. Because if I block this camera with my head, like this camera over here would be able to pick up this. So it still knows where I'm going.
Yeah.
It still knows if I put it behind my back, maybe you have a camera back there, it can still like work and I think be pretty cheap. I don't actually know how the Oculus Quest really keeps track of you.
I don't know either.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
If that is like, if they can figure out how to track you without cameras, dude, perfect. That is the easiest way to make it cheaper, because if you don't have to buy cameras on top of like the other stuff,
yeah,
you're just basically buying a controller and a small
headset.
monitor, like
pretty much. Yeah, or a couple monitors, really teeny ones on each eye.
It'll be interesting though if it is gonna take over gaming. I don't agree, but if it is, dude, they got to work out something competitive then, because competitive scene in gaming is huge.
I agree.
And if it's gonna take over that, you're gonna have to have something that like really is appealing to competitive gamers.
I will say that it would be competing against PC. You think of playing a shooter, for example. How much more advanced is the tracking technology and the camera technology and the peripheral technology going to have to be for it to be anywhere near as accurate as a PC mouse? And
at that point,
it
will probably have to be inexpensive.
Because think about this: if you're playing a shooter right now, you're playing on PC with the DPI up really high. You got a guy behind you. You can hear him in your headset. You got a guy behind you coming up on you, and you can just move your wrist like an inch, and you completely turn around to be able to shoot that guy.
I gotta go like.
Are you gonna want to physically turn your entire body around to shoot that guy? Like maybe not. Maybe people won't like that.
And that's why I think that it won't completely overtake it. Now, when it comes to immersive experiences, I totally agree with you. That like it will overtake it because there's no better immersion, and as long as they can like learn to get haptic feedback into it, I think they've already got like full 360 sound. So just maybe like, I think sound design in games might have to be a little more stressed.
Yeah.
Even more than it already is. I know that games are now.
Yeah.
I know they're very detail oriented.
Yeah.
But like super duper. Super you have to pay attention to everything in the environment, and it makes so much work. So all these lazy half-ass like copy paste from what we made last year and make the theme a little different will not survive if that is the future, because what the heck, if they're not going to pay attention as much as these people over here to certain things.
That's true.
And I think the thing about VR too is like, it doesn't have to go full realistic. That job simulator game that you have on the PS4 is, because I'm not all about realistic art styles. Right. I really do like it when games try to find their own art.
Yeah, I agree.
So like them with their own art style making that game was really cool, and I think they still paid attention to detail within that art style.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you have to do. Not like, I'm not saying that like every little grain of sand I should be able to go over and like pick it up or whatever, but I'm saying that like with the way that they make their game, they need to be very vigilant on what they're doing and make sure that, and that may, at least at first, cause either really long times for development of games or really short games. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it would be, but even if they'll go that way. I think personally that's just how I think VR should go. Yeah. Obviously, that developers aren't, I don't think, unless they are very passionate developers, at least big developers, for the most part, don't want to make more work for themselves than they have to just to make money. So I'm sure there will be smaller developers and indie developers who will put in the elbow grease to do that stuff. But I don't know about the bigger ones.
I will say one problem that I see, and I don't really know why it's the case, but I've seen a lot in VR games that there's fewer of the like big games. Like I know it, like with PSVR specifically, like Resident Evil 7 you can play it fully in VR. There's a couple other examples.
Skyrim
is full VR. Mm-hmm. But most of what is sold in PSVR is like smaller experiences. smaller games like Job Simulator. It's not a huge game.
Nope.
Like I platinumed that game in a couple hours.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. But there's not as much of the like big budget, like huge games. And I don't know if that's because developers don't want to spend the time that it would require to really iron out,
It's a lot of work.
it would have to be.
It's a lot of work. Especially if they want to keep their content as long as it is.
Yeah.
Like if they want to keep a game as long as Skyrim is, which is hours and hours of time you can put into that game.
Right. Which it is good. It's good. The VR is good.
Yeah, no, I played it a little bit and it's a little hard to get used to at first, but then it's really cool.
Yeah.
I hate spiders, so that sucks. But and having a giant dragon in your face is kind of scary.
But scary. That opening cutscene, giant dragon.
Yeah. It's and another thing with the big developers is, do they think it's worth the time right now?
Right.
Like VR isn't in a particular place where it's dominating the scene, where like if they would make a game specifically for VR, it would not be as profitable if I were to make a game that would just go on PS4 or something. That's
true.
So like that could be another case of why bigger developers don't really want to touch it right now, because it's not a dominating force. It's not something that like there is a niche thing for it right now. Like there are certain people that only play VR games. Yeah. I think that's kind of cool if that's like your thing.
There's a couple of YouTube channels, one in particular, PlayStation VR Without Parole. Check that one out. They do exclusively reviews of VR games. Go check those guys out. I agree with that. It's the user base isn't very high.
Not yet.
So which is why it's really, really interesting to me why Valve decided to make Half-Life Alyx VR exclusive.
Okay, that
people
was weird
have been
to me.
waiting for Half-Life 3.
That's not a problem if they made it VR, but making it exclusive to VR was I think it was a little much, because so many people were waiting for this game for years. I mean, people were making jokes about it for the longest time about, Valve's going to let out, Half-Life 3 as a joke, because they know they're like, no, they're never going to let it out.
Like
they finally let it out. And then they finally let it out, and it's only for those certain people who get that niche, or like, I don't know. Especially because the Vive was, I mean, I still think VR is pretty young, but like even then it was really young to expect people to have to play on that. It's cool. I've actually watched videos on it. Looks really fun. Yeah. But like when you make it exclusive to that, which is surprising because Valve is such a money hungry company. Yeah. I am very surprised they made it VR exclusive.
Yeah, because I can't imagine how much that would have sold on PC and regular, like on Steam and
it couldn't have sold that much.
No, it was on Steam, I'm sure, but I mean,
I'm not saying that it didn't sell a lot, but in perspective, to games that they've let out, like Half-Life and Half-Life 2, on PC, probably didn't sell near as much.
And probably, or even Portal 2, Rick, or even Portal 2, I'm sure that sold.
A lot.
Sold a lot. So
and even CS:GO before it became free. Stuff like that, like those games.
Was that? I didn't even know that was.
CS:GO wasn't free. It was $15.
No. CS:GO is
Valve.
Yeah.
CS:GO, TF2.
I knew TF2 was.
CS:GO's Valve.
I did not know that.
CS Source.
I feel dumb. That's good. It's good to know. Yeah.
Which is another thing that makes me mad about that is like I've wanted Valve to make a game for so long. I didn't even care if it was Half-Life 3. I just wanted Valve to like get back into making games,
instead of just resting on the laurels of Steam.
Yeah, and like this CS:GO and TF2 marketplace, like they just the crazy percentages they take from people who trade or sell, and I mean, heck, they could live off that forever. But I really wanted Valve to get back into the scene, and to do it just with VR was kind of disappointing. Yeah, a little bit, but. If they'd have done it maybe 2 or 3 years from now, maybe it would have been more successful.
I don't really know what.
And maybe people will go back and play it. But
the problem with VR, at least in my opinion, a major problem is the barrier of entry. You've got to buy these, and price. That's the two main things. Price, I think.
Which Oculus is why we were giving them props, because it's moving towards. It's like $200. Yeah, and from $1,200 to $200.
I don't actually know what drawbacks are for that kind
I
of
know it's on
price
your
cut.
phone.
Oh, really?
The Quest is on your phone,
Okay.
I believe.
Well, regardless.
Which is a drawback. It's a little drawback on quality.
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, phones are pretty powerful now, but still,
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, you're still going to lack in a little bit of quality. But I'm sure that it was like, you know, a little bit of a test. And then like in a couple years, they'll figure out how to do it with, you know, a PC. I think actually, you know what I just realized? I just realized this. You know what they do to track you is your phone. Your phone has motion tracking in it already. They probably use motion tracking of your phone to actually do that.
Yeah.
Because there's VR videos. I don't know if you've ever done it with like the 360 videos on like YouTube and stuff. You can like turn your phone. So they had just had to use that technology and then just incorporate it into their VR. So all they need is something like that in a headset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
it kind of explains why the price point's good. But
which gets me hopeful that later on that it could be a little better price. I will say that which one? I think it is the Oculus is a little better price than the Vive.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think Vive has the I think the controllers for the Vive are like super fancy. I don't really know. I know that
almost
I'm
a little
sure
too fancy.
I'm pretty sure the Vive, like, it's got like these rings around your fingers, kind of, that like track your fingers.
They do. I think
something.
so.
I don't know. Maybe we should have looked more into that before we started talking about it. But
I don't know the purpose of the O's, but I do know that
really matter.
the Vive to me, the controllers are too fancy because I can't look at them.
Yeah, that's true.
I can't have a lot going on here, or I'm going to be confused. Like if there's too much going on, and really the complexity of what you're doing in the game is not that much.
Right.
Like the grabbing options are super simple.
Even like on Skyrim on PlayStation VR. So with PlayStation VR, you've got the triggers, and you've got like front buttons that are for your thumbs, and around those thumb buttons, there's like 4 your cross, circle, triangle, square buttons on your PlayStation, and it's around those. And I always forget which one is which. Like I think bottom right is like bottom right is
poking
circle.
Out of your headset.
Yeah. And I always forget. I think bottom left is like square, bottom right is circle, like top right is triangle, but I really don't know. It could be completely wrong. I never remember. And so you see it prompting the game. And it's like, oh, press square, and I'm like, which one is it?
And sometimes it shows you, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like this button on this controller. You're like, oh, okay.
Okay, let me ask something else.
Okay.
I just kind of popped in my head, but we sort of joked about like the bodysuit thing. Mm-hmm. So how would you feel about like some sort of device you could wear on your skin that could like mess with your nerves or something?
Oh my gosh.
To feel something.
Are you a lunatic?
Maybe. But I mean, how would you feel about that? Hey, listen, this is not a far stretch.
I would have to, okay.
This is not a far stretch. This is stuff that like Elon Musk has talked about.
I mean, it totally
ways to like
depends.
tap into your nerves. If you not necessarily pain, but like if you could have some way to feel like a jolt or like something that gets you like sucked into the game, would you be down with that? Because I mean,
here's what I'm envisioning actually is so you know, like when you get a heart scan, like they just put the pads on you. Mm-hmm. I imagine something like that, kind of like pads, and like it just has like it just taps into your neural network.
Yeah.
But like, I think I would try it.
Yeah.
Just because man, that would be kind of cool. If some guy just like comes over and gets like this, and I like just feel like a.
Can you imagine like
that would be kind of scary at first though. No, okay. Hear me out. Imagine a scary game.
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh my gosh!
Like, can you imagine playing like a horror game?
No.
There's a scene in
Oh my! What if they could like? What if like for some way with your face they could like emulate like air pressing on you, and like say like a character's up in your face screaming, and it's just like you feel like this.
Yeah, I was thinking like, what if? I'm pretty sure there's a scene in Final Fantasy, Resident Evil 7, where you're like crawling. It's like in between these two walls. You're like shimmying down it or something, and like there's like spiders or something that come out of the ceiling. I can't remember now. It's been so long since I saw it.
Couldn't play those games.
No, but listen. Imagine like there's spiders that get on your arms, and it like tingles up your arms. Like, can you imagine? Like. That would be so scary.
I almost want to punch you just to hear that.
I'm sorry I said spiders, but...
That would, like, feeling that, I would instantly take the headset off and probably throw it.
Smash it.
Yeah,
rip the leads off of you.
Dude, the reactions you could get from people in the very beginning of that release. If this happens, I will be so excited to see this, and definitely want to try it because that will just the initial reaction of trying that would be crazy.
Yeah, I would completely be down with that because
It depends on what level they can get.
Yeah,
the immersion of like what you're feeling. Now, I think, in my opinion, it won't get to the point where they can like emulate air, but like maybe if it was like little tingles or something across your face. But like
dude, I could see like doing this. I could see a headset that has like a fan built into
maybe,
it,
yeah,
or something. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing, honestly, ideas here, but I think it would be super cool. Almost like it's something that you would go to like an amusement park.
Yeah.
Like
it's
Disney
like those 4D
World.
experiences where you get in those rides and they're just like, put your goggles on and they just like throw you around.
Yeah,
in
and
this
like
thing.
the seat in front of you has a fan. It like spits air on you.
Or it like puts up like hot air if like there's fire near you, or like kind of squirts a little bit of water on you if there's something. Yeah.
I don't know. It might be gimmicky, but again, like
that would.
It would. But there would be some games. And there could be artful ways to implement it too. Mm-hmm. Games like I don't know if you played like Journey or some of the like walking simulator games, like quote unquote. It sounds kind of derogatory, but like the walking sim games where you don't really do anything. You're kind of just walking around, but like it's more about the like experience, the music and the emotion.
I've not played Journey, but I've seen videos of Journey, and it is an interesting game.
I like games like that. There's not much in the way of gameplay, so if you're like explaining them to someone, they're like, "What do you do in this game?" And
you're like you walk around.
You walk and
do I like fight bad guys? No,
no. There's not really bad guys, and there's not really good guys. It's kind of just you and the wind,
and a world, and you kind of walk around it.
Yeah, and there's like kind of buildings, and
you discover things.
You hear music.
Do I get prizes or anything? No.
It's just
the prizes playing.
Yeah, like. You get to a place and you're like, well, what's there? And you're like, nothing. Like it's about the walking, and they're like, this.
That would be a hard
stupid.
selling point in a VR game if you think about it. You're just like walking around. You're just like, whoa.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of these games. There's a lot of these.
They could do it in an artful way. They could definitely. Pull it off.
It's about like the emotion that it makes you feel. There might be some dialogue, and it leaves you to like think about things, and the score is good, and the art direction's good, and so it's not necessarily about like the physical things that you're doing, the game mechanics. It's more about like the package as a whole, and I feel like VR would be a good place, and what we're talking about right here with these like bionic additions. I don't know.
Yeah, we're like talking about like cyberpunk stuff. Yeah, like we're just like gonna inject these nanomites into us, and we're gonna be like, this is just to be immersed into my game.
It's all right, boys, go to work. And you like inject these bugs in your bloodstream. It's like you get excited.
Dude,
it like goes to your heart, and they're like
those superstitious people. The government's gonna control us. I'm not superstitious. I'm just a little stitious. A little stitious. It would be a little weird to put something in you.
I don't know if I would go that far.
But like, I don't know.
Injecting yourself. But dude, I would completely put like leads on my skin, like little things. Like, dude, heck yeah. No, it'd probably be a little bit annoying to like have to do that every time you played. And kind of, man. When I start to think about the logistics of this, it's like, this is dumb. Because it's like you have to clean the leads every time you use them, or get new ones. And
this is why I don't think this is the future.
Maybe not that.
Logistically, does not make sense to go that far with it.
Yeah, maybe not that far.
It makes sense if that is the target audience you want to hit. You want to hit people who really care about immersion. You got to the amount of freaking time you got to put into figuring all this stuff out.
Yeah,
it's a lot. But like I said, PS5 took a lot of time with the haptic feedback, and it's working for them.
The thing is, though, can you imagine telling someone in the 70s playing Pong that, hey, guys, in your lifetime, there will be games where you will put a headset on, and as you move your head, your character moves its head around, and you can see it's like you're there, and like.
Well, at that point, they didn't even have like developed characters with heads.
Like no, they were just like lines. Which I do have to make a comment. A couple podcasts ago, I mentioned that No, I'm sorry. This is completely non sequitur. But I mentioned during the Hot Wings video that the Custer's Revenge game was an NES game. It was an Atari 2600 game. My apologies. Okay, but back to what I was saying. That was like, I don't know how many years ago was that? 50? Something like that? 50-ish years ago? The advancements that gaming has made in 50 years to get to the point that we're at now.
It is true.
In 50 years when we're still alive, where will we be? I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Because technology grows,
technology
grows exponentially.
I do think with VR, my opinion is a good next step is being able to kind of screw the controller and just be able to use my hands.
Yeah.
Being able to I talked about the Minecraft thing where it was on the table. I'd like to be able to just grab a block. I can't really do that with the controllers. They're not precise enough. Yeah. You can grab a block, but it's like your hand kind of just, and then it's like grabbing six. I want to just be able to go boop, with my fingertips, drop it off. Yeah. And I think that would be, honestly, I can see that that's a very realistic within the next year step.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know what
haptic feedback could happen. The problem is putting all this together.
Right.
Haptic feedback when I'm just using my hands, I have to put gloves on them. Mm-hmm. If I'm trying to get haptic feedback, which I'm not opposed to putting gloves on. I don't think that'd be too weird.
No.
Or too inconvenient.
Hey, dude, there was the NES Power Glove. Have you seen that?
I have seen that. Yes, I've seen that.
I don't know if that was
kind of crazy if you look at old consoles and the amount of stuff that
the cool external peripherals.
Well, that was it was like foreshadowing this new era of VR stuff coming out. And
the NES Zapper, was like a gun. You shoot your screen. I don't remember.
It was like an actual an arcade.
It was like the Wii before the Wii.
It's like what? I don't know, but if you haven't looked at it, go back and watch some videos. There are people put it out on YouTube all the time of older stuff that have these really cool add-ons that were not very popular. They're super rare now and very expensive.
I think the reason they weren't popular is because they didn't work very well. The technology wasn't developed well enough.
But it was
a cool idea.
It's a really cool thing that if you own it now, that's
a Power Glove was a controller. It was a glove you would slide on, and you could control the NES with it. And I don't know exactly. I think it was something like if your hand was open, you'd move or something weird. And
the controls weren't practical and kind of weird to and it wasn't very
precise.
Precise on your movements. So it could say that you stop moving even though your hand's supposed to be open or whatever.
Yeah, I saw the side note, but the guy, I don't know if he still has it. I actually don't think he does, but he's been one of the people, Cosmic D12. Or he might just go by Cosmic now. He is one of the major speedrunners for Super Mario Bros. And multiple other games. He's had the world record a few times, but he beat the entire game with a Power Glove, and it was so difficult.
Speedrunners are so weird, man.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to talk about that in another podcast because speedrunners, that community of players are just an interesting bunch.
Yeah,
playing Dark Souls with a dance pad. Yeah, what the hell are you? They intentionally give themselves disadvantages.
Yeah, but just
and say, "I want to do this," and it's gonna be fun.
They're so freaking good at a game that they could just.
And Dark Souls or Mario is hard to perfect. Yeah, and yet they do it, and then they put themselves at a disadvantage and still do better than most people.
Yeah. Still do better than I would do.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy. It is crazy.
It's cool though.
It is cool.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Oh, gotta do a game of the week.
Game of the week?
Do you have one? I do.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't think I used it. Baldur's Gate. Did I use Baldur's Gate? I don't think I used.
You did.
Baldur's Gate is a D&D style game. It's the most updated version of D&D. I don't know what gen they're on. But it's updated every once in a while, and it's the most updated version. It's a super cool game, really cool to create a character. It's got a very specific type of combat, very story driven, and very strategic. You have to use your team. If you don't know how D&D happens, you have certain skills you can do during an attack phase with other people, and you have a group of people you can control unless you're with a party. So me and Alex played together. On our turns, he would get to pick what he's going to do. I get to pick what I'm going to do, and you have to roll depending on the rolls and like your stats.
Yeah,
it does different damage and stuff like that. But
your stats can like help you be more likely to get
right.
Like if you have a question that's like, oh, am I going to jump and make this gap or whatever? Correct me if I'm wrong, but like if you have higher of a certain stat,
I think it's like dexterity or something.
Yeah, that it's like more likely that your rolls will be successful.
You don't have to roll very high.
Yeah.
To get it. If you have very bad like intelligence and you're like trying to decipher this code and you have to roll like super high numbers just to even be able to decipher it or even be able to like do anything with it. Sometimes you can't do anything. Like you just fail. And it's a really cool, it kind of changes the dynamic of the game, and the story kind of runs in its own pathway, which is really cool. What's cool about D&D, your campaigns kind of go their own way, even though the story is like, it has a story, but you can kind of maneuver it. But yeah.
Mine I'm going to say, and it's actually related to yours a little bit. It's called Disco Elysium. It is, I think I've heard it's been out a while, but it's one that I've been wanting to get. And I've seen it on sale some lately, and I haven't bought it because Christmas. But
family take
it's
all
like
my money.
It's like a RPG. Well, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like a story-driven, like visual novel kind of, but blended with this like the D&D mechanics of you have these stats, except all the stats are related to different aspects of the mind, like your ability to influence.
Oh, you've talked to me about this one. Yeah,
like one stat is like your ability to influence other people through your language. Another might be your ability to.
It all has to do with like mentality.
It's all mentality, and it's all just different ways of thought.
That's
like
cool.
Maybe your ability
I have to look at that. That sounds awesome.
It does. It looks really cool. Your ability to like decipher things or something. And so as you're playing through the game, your dialogue options in the game, it's super weird. Like your psyche like argues with itself depending on which of your stats are the most dominant. Like and so the dialogue options are different depending on like which skills you prioritize. And there'll be things where you'll maybe, I don't know, try to buy something off somebody from a shop. And so you want your mental stat about like being able to talk somebody into a deal. You'll have a roll where you'll have to
that's
roll.
Cool.
So stuff like that. It's kind of like a mix of like the what are they called, the rolls? There's a name for them. Something check.
Oh, well, it's all dependent on what you're rolling for. Like if I'm rolling for a dexterity, it's called a dexterity check.
Okay. So whatever. So there's all these checks.
Resolve check.
Yeah.
Or so like whatever mentality, I'm sure it's at like whatever that is.
Yeah.
It's a check for that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just
that's cool.
Sounds cool.
Check it
that
out.
kind of thing. But
all right.
Yeah.
We're good.